Hi and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. This is Cami with Stitch Hazel, and this video is going to have two parts. First of all, I'm going to be reviewing the Sew Over It tie pattern, and then I'm going to be talking about how my Make 9 plans went for the year, for 2020, and what I accomplished. So first of all, the Sew Over It tie pattern. I'll pop a few pictures in up here to show you some details, but this is it. You can see it matches this dress that was one of my Make 9 goals for the year, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. It's a Sew Over It Betty dress. But first of all, I had heard online through several social media posts that the Sew Over It tie pattern is significantly shorter than many ready-to-wear ties. So I asked for suggestions on Facebook, and one of the sewists that's in the group mentioned that she had lengthened it by 15 centimeters and if it was perfect. I did wind up lengthening this by 15 centimeters, and I'll tell you how I did it in just a second, but I compared it to my husband's other ties and it's still a little bit shorter than some of his ready-to-wear ties. So I decided this is the front pattern piece. You can see it's really wide at the bottom. I didn't want to make it wider by lengthening it and making the wide part longer so that it was kind of chunky on the front. So with the 15 centimeters, I only added 5 centimeters to the front piece, and I added 10 centimeters to the skinnier piece in the back. That wasn't really scientific, that's just what I decided to do. I cut it right where, I think my screen is backwards, but right where the point of the pattern piece is, cut it across there, added 5 centimeters, and the same to the back. Obviously, you're going to have to include that lengthening in the domette as well, which is the inside lining. But that's really all that I did differently to the pattern. It was a great pattern. It stitched up really well. Domette was something I had a little bit of trouble finding, locally at least. So I found it on Etsy, and I'm going to link the supplier below. Really nice, really great quality, and they sent me about a yard, so I have leftovers for several future ties if I want to make something to match my own dresses. So the stitching, I've got my notes over here, sorry. The stitching is primarily hand stitching, other than the part where you link the two pattern pieces together, which you can't really see. But Lisa, Lisa Comfort, who owns Sew Over It, when she was doing the sew along video recently, she suggested doing a lot of pinning. And I am kind of an advanced beginner, still very much a beginner, so I took it a step further. And again, I'll show you a picture of it right here. But after I had pinned, I did some really long basting stitches to keep it exactly in place, because I didn't want it moving once I had decided exactly where I wanted it. I didn't want the domette shifting on the inside and making it look kind of homemade instead of handmade, I guess, if you can say that. So that's really all that I did differently. So lengthening it, and I added just some extra stability as I was hand stitching it. So slip stitching, if you're not used to hand stitching, which previously, I would say before last year, I was not. There was a really easy, probably less than 2-minute video that I found that showed a great way to do it. So I will also link that below. But other than that, just a few close-ups of the tie. I added a little, again, I think my camera's backward, but I added a little place to tuck the back in. I did that by hand. I tack stitched it, I think, at the bottom, which I wound up, after I did that, I saw that many of my husband's ready-to-wear ties also had a little tack stitch at the bottom, so I felt good about that. And he loved it. It looked really great. It needed a good press, and once I had pressed it, it just looked relatively professional, and he enjoyed wearing it on Mother's Day. It was supposed to be for Easter, but no one was gathering for Easter anyway because it's 2020, and so I put it off and finished it before Mother's Day. So that's pretty much it for the Sew Over It tie. I wanted to let you know how my Make 9 plans went for the year, if you follow this channel. Obviously fewer videos than I had hoped for in this year, and also fewer accomplishments than I had hoped for, but some extra ones that were not on my list. So here is a picture of my Make 9 goals for the year. And I'm just gonna go through and check them off. Again, I've got my notes right over here, so I might be looking to the side, but I'm gonna link the original video below of my Make 9 plans so that you can see not only what my goals were, but also the fabrics that I was planning to use for each of the garments. So my first goal was to finish my Edie tops. That's a Sew Over It pattern from the Work to Weekend ebook. And I made 4 out of the 5 that I had planned to make. Eventually in the end, and I will come back to this when I make a video review of that pattern for the Edie tops, something about the neckline in the Edie tops, I love the shape of the neckline, but in certain jerseys that I had chosen, and it could be a fit issue, I'm not sure, but the neckline would kind of bend forward and you could see the hem and see very much that it was homemade. So that was very frustrating. And I had tried to think of different ways to finish that, that were an alteration to the pattern, maybe bias binding and other things. And so that's why I haven't finished my 5th. It's out of some Rifle Paper Company fabric, which you can tell that I love. Obviously, many of my garments are from Rifle Paper Company. And I just didn't want to use that fabric until I had decided firmly what I wanted to do with the neckline. So that was goal number 1. Goal number 2 was the Betty for Easter. It is finished and it doesn't fit at all. It might look like it fit, but I have myself kind of clipped in the back. Once I made it and I had finished the seams to my delight perfectly with French seams and some bias binding on some of the seams, and I thought it looked gorgeous. I had made a toile and everything and it fit perfectly. And once I made the finished garment, it's about 3 or 4 inches too big in the back. Significant stretching there. I'm not sure if the fabric stretched or if I just didn't have the toile as perfect as I thought I did, but I'm either gonna have to alter the dress or I'm just gonna pick it apart and turn it into something else. Again, it looks kind of fine from here up, but it's really baggy down below. And in order to take it apart, it would require unpicking not only the French seams, but some of the Hong Kong finishes that I had done. And that sounds really overwhelming. I'm not sure if I would get as much wear out of it as the project would take. So I might just chalk it up to experience and use the fabric for something else. So that was goal 2. We'll see what I do with that. Goal 3 was to make a matching ensemble for my husband and daughter. Again, that was originally for Easter, but it wound up being Mother's Day. So here's the tie that I made, obviously, and then the dress that I made for my daughter. I will link that video below as well. It was really fun. It was a lot of floral. I don't think I'll ever make a floral matching ensemble again. It was just too much. But it was fun and we matched, and it was my first Mother's Day, so it was great. The next one was the Matild blouse from Tilly and the Buttons. Now, while I have not yet made that, I have my pattern put together and I did a practice round of what the back looks like. The back, I'll show you what the pattern says that it looks like, has buttons down the back. And I'll show you what my practice looks like, which was a refashion of a ready-to-wear shirt that I have. The darts were in completely the wrong place, and the more that I've learned about sewing, the more I realized I didn't want to wear that in public and look like it didn't fit me. And so I chopped off the bottom half, which I'm going to use for something else, just for fabric, maybe for some shorts, some pajama shorts. And then the top half and the sleeves I kept, and I added, again, Rifle Paper Company fabric to the bottom. And I did the back exactly like you would with the Tilly and the Buttons buttoning closure down the back. So I really like how that fits me. I just haven't made the Matild blouse. So I would say that's a partially finished goal. Number 5 was the carry trousers. I have not made those yet. I have those cut out and ready to go. But what I did do is make a Sencha blouse. I think it's from Colette Patterns from Seamwork, and I'll link the pattern and show you a picture right here. But I made that to go with the carry trousers so that it looks like a faux jumpsuit. Now, with that and with this ensemble, I would recommend, if you're ever going to do an ensemble of matching patterns and garments, and if you want them to all come from the same piece of fabric, that you cut out all of your patterns. In this case, there were 3 patterns. In my other case, there were just 2 patterns. Cut those all out and lay them all out on the fabric at the same time, because your lay plans are going to look a lot different than the originals. Had I cut out my carry trousers without referencing the Sencha garment first, or had I cut out my Betty dress without referencing the tie and the little girl pattern that I was making for my daughter first, then I wouldn't have had enough fabric. but I was able to move things around and shift things and squeeze in some parts from her pattern, squeeze in some tie pieces, and again with the carry trousers, squeeze in the Sencha top in order to get them all to fit on my same piece of fabric with minimal waste. So I was really excited about that. The Sencha top is not one that I'll probably wear much by itself. It's okay, it looks fine, it's just not really my style, but I think it will be perfect tucked into the carry trousers to look like a faux jumpsuit. So stay tuned for that in 2021. My next goal was the pussy bow blouse. I have done nothing with that. What I did do was buy a little girl's pattern that looks very similar with a pussy bow. And I'm hoping that when I make my pussy bow blouses, that I will make a matching set for my little girl. That's going to be darling, but I have done nothing with that in 2020. My next goal was an Emma dress. Again, I did nothing with that. I haven't even cut out the pattern for that one. I think that that particular dress is going to be a staple in my wardrobe. I'm really excited to make it next year, but it just did not make the cut for 2020. And then my second to last goal, Charlotte dress, also didn't make. Some of these I really had planned to make to wear places. So for example, the Charlotte dress was going to be my Christmas dress that I wore this year. Obviously, we're not gathering in the same way in 2020 as we would in years past. And so that kind of ticked my motivation down a little bit. This one I finished because I was planning to wear it to Mother's Day. We only saw my in-laws and we had a nice brunch together. But I normally would have a little bit more motivation, I think, if I were wearing it to a location or to an event. I think I would get it done on time. I don't know that about myself. We'll see. This was my first year to make a Make 9 goal sheet. But I didn't finish as many of these as I hoped. And again, the Charlotte dress was going to be for Christmas and there's nowhere to wear it. So I will save that for next year. And then my last goal was a Georgie dress. Not only did I finish my Georgie dress, it was for my brother's wedding, but I love my Georgie dress. And I will not go into detail. I will show 1 or 2 pictures here because I am planning to make a review of that pattern. The only thing I will say is that if you are watching this and you are planning to make a Georgie dress and you know that you will need a full bust adjustment, I would recommend doing a full bust adjustment. My temptation and what I decided on was that because it's a knit fabric and normally those are stretchy and roomy and I can get in no problem, that I didn't need an FBA. And for my next Georgie, I will definitely be doing an FBA. The way that they have it is very constricting at the top. And that's purposeful. It's not uncomfortable. It's purposeful to keep any gaping from happening because it's a wrap top. So if you need an FBA, I would recommend doing that. And I'm planning to learn how to do that on knit fabrics using the Stitch Sisters course that I purchased for myself this year. And I'll link that below. And that's it for my 2020 Make 9. I have not finalized my 2021 Make 9 plans. I know a lot of the garments that I didn't finish from this year are going to move over, but I also have a couple of new patterns that I really want to try to add as basics to my wardrobe. So we will see how that goes. Stay tuned. I not only have some new fabric to go with a few Make 9 goals for 2021, but I will also reveal my final plans for Make 9. So that is all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope it was helpful. If you have made the Betty dress, this is one last comment. If you've made the Betty dress and you have had fit issues with the back, as I'm having, if you have any tips or tricks or suggestions, please comment below. I know that Julie from Sew Over It, their fit master, had linked some Friday fitting tips on Instagram about the Betty dress. So I know I'm not the only person who has had that problem, but I just don't even know where to start for fixing it. And I really think I'm more inclined to pick it apart than to fix it and make it the dress that I had envisioned. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. If you're doing a Make 9 for 2021, please link that below. I'd love to see your plans, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks so much.